I'm Amy the Amazonian, and I'm ready to brawl using the new commanders from Murders at Karlov Manor, including this one, Voya, Jaws of the Conclave. Or Voha, Jaws of the Conclave. Voja, Jaws of the Conclave? I've heard all three. I like to call him Voya, though, and he's a big old wolf that cares about wolves and elves. You might recognize him, actually, because he's usually hanging out with Tolsimir. And we do have two of the three Tolsimirs in this deck. A rather common sight on Ravnica is to see this Ledev on the prowl with his favorite wolf. Well, this is this wolf's last stand, and we get to go in with tons and tons of elves and wolves in this deck. Voya, Jaws of the Conclave, gives all of your creatures +1/+1 when he attacks in for each elf you control. He even buffs himself, and because he's got Vigilance, Trample, and Ward 3, he's a pretty strong attacker. He also draws cards for the number of wolves you control when you attack in, which means that you are drawing more elves and attacking in with a big army, a wide board of creatures. And this deck is really good at going wide because elves are, I'll say, prolific, making tokens, making copies, making mana, and sometimes even drawing cards. The main strategy in this deck is to ramp up into Voya by playing lots of elves, many of which generate mana, starting with things like Llanowar Elves in the first turn, something like maybe Galagreeters or Paradise Druid right after, and then getting into the things that make lots of mana, like Gwenna or Selvala, Elvish Archdruid too. These are all fantastic elves at making lots and lots of mana. Then once you get up to Voya, you are swinging in. But because he's got a bit of a target on his back, and he's protected by Ward 3, sure, you're going to want some haste. So I'm running Rhythm of the Wild, Swiftfoot Boots, and Rising of the Day to help go fast in this deck. These haste cards are also fantastic with the elves that generate mana because you can use them for mana right away. Also, because Voya has +1/+1 counters as the way that it's buffing all of these elves, there's a tiny bit of proliferate in this deck too. I have the Evolution Sage in here to get you some landfall proliferate, so you can get even more counters on all your elves and wolves. And while not everything in this deck is an elf or a wolf, most of them do still help you win the game, because you want to be attacking with a lot of creatures. Classic finisher in green, Craterhoof Behemoth, don't you love him? I sure do, especially with that art. And if you're looking for something a little bit smaller, Jetmir, Nexus of Revels, really rewards you in any Naya deck that has a ton of creatures by giving you Vigilance, Trample, and eventually Double Strike if you manage to get enough creatures on the board. There's also a couple other, I'll call them sneaky cards in this deck, like Maskwood Nexus. Yeah, you care about wolves and elves, right? What if everything was an elf and a wolf? Maskwood Nexus gets you even more buffs and even more card draw when you swing in with Voya. And if you want to just double Voya's triggers, Roaming Throne, Naming Wolves doesn't just get you another wolf on the board, it gets you more counters and more card draw. I might love this card. I have an unhealthy problem where I just keep putting Roaming Throne into my decks. Also, fun fact about this deck, every single card in this deck is actually a paper card, which means that you could play this deck at your local game store, and you might want to, because there's an upcoming Commander Party. February 16th through 18th, there's the Murders at Karlov Manor Commander Party at your local game store. It's going to be Commander with a twist. There's going to be some guild-based murder mysteries going on, which you can join in with your own decks, or if you want to pick up a pre-con, I'll highly recommend some of the ones that are from this set. There's 4 of them that came out. My favorite one is the Naya Disguise one. That's the same colors as this, the red, green, white. It's really fun, but there's tons of other great precons out there, and I'm sure many of you have your own favorite commander decks to bring to the Commander Party. So let's take Voya into the Brawl queue and have some fun here in Arena. Archangel Elspeth makes 1/1 life-linking tokens and can turn things into angels. I have some ramp on turns 2 and 3. I've got a bit of haste in this hand as well. We're going second, though, which means that they could get off to a fast and aggressive start. I'm not fully sure what strategies they'll be using in their deck other than good cards in white. You could build this as an Angels deck, or as a lifelink deck, or just as good aggressive white cards. I guess we'll find out by playing against them. We're going to start with our Druid of the Cowl, get ourselves some ramp. Starting with Elvish Warmaster would get us more tokens, but I want to get my ramp ready. Ooh, lay down arms. They're exiling my elf. It's okay, I got to gain a little bit of life. Guess I will just get ready to go fast with Rhythm of the Wild. Creature spells can't be countered. That's not, by the way, super relevant against white. Mana Tithe is an arena, but for the most part, you don't have to worry that much about counter spells playing against white. And I have a soldier token! Going to bring out Rishkar. I am going to give him haste. He's going to put a +1/+1 counter on himself, which means he can be tapped for mana. I'm also going to get out this Elvish Warmaster, and I'm going to put a +1/+1 counter on that as well. Rishkar lets anything with a +1/+1 counter on it tap for mana for us, which is great, since Goya puts +1/+1 counters on things. So Archangel Elspeth also does bring small permanents back from the graveyard. There's our small permanents. Guardian of New Benalia. This lets them discard things as well. Oh, they're getting rid of my haste. Stroke of Midnight turns my Rhythm of the Wild into a pumpkin. Sorry, into a human. It's this guy. Right here. I wanted to play this land first so I could hold my heroic intervention, just in case they're trying to start some trouble here. And yes, they have access to this -3 ability, and they can technically discard cards off Guardian of New Benalia, but I don't think that that's what they want to do yet. Ossification. Probably trying to exile Voya. We're going to wait until they pay the 3. And then we're going to give this Hexproof and Indestructible. You may have paid the 3 to get through Ward, but we still gave it a little bit more protection after. It's a good dog, I know. They're making another token with lifelink. Of these, only Voya is going to have Trample, but we're going to shoot all that trample damage at Elspeth after I take out some creatures here. I'm going to go for 1, 2, 3 damage. I'm going to split it between the Guardian of New Benalia and this Soldier token. This can become indestructible, but it's tapped, so it won't be able to block if it is. They dropped a Kutsil's Flanker. Nice, that's a good card in white. I'm going to go to combat. Voya at Elspeth, and everybody else right at our opponent. Cool, Paradise Druid is what we drew since we attacked with 1 wolf, and we attacked with 2 elves. Well, I should say we control 2 elves, so we get a bit more here. Elspeth is alive. They did block with 1, but their life total is gone way down to 13. You start with 25 life in a 1v1 Brawl, and sometimes it feels like it's not that much life. Even when you've got lifelinkers, it only takes 1 big attack from the wolves to take you out. In the Trenches buffs things up and eventually can be used as removal. But they're not going to have enough mana because we are going to swing right back in. I've got this Swords to Plowshares. I can use it on whatever is blocking Voya, but I first want to play creatures because the more elves I have down before combat, the more counters we're going to get on all our creatures. I got enough mana for this Signet, so we may as well unload our hand, swing on in, ignoring Elspeth and going straight for face. So that's a 12-12. 8-8, 10-10, 10-10, all going in here. They're not even going to try blocking. If they discard to try and make this indestructible, I'm going to exile it. It was all for naught. Now, while that In the Trenches is able to remove one card, it can only remove one non-land permanent. And I'd say we have more than a few threats here. Even that human token they gave us from Stroke of Midnight is back at a pretty big bunch. GG, Elspeth. 2 wolves enter, 1 wolf will remain. It's another Voya as our opponent. This hand does have some nice elf cards in it, but it is missing a 3rd land. It's a little risky for me to keep it, but I like a little bit of risk. I know that there's lands, mana dorks, and everything else in our deck, so we will keep this, play this Jetmir's Garden on turn 1, unless we happen to draw a Land War Elf or similar, and then see if we can get Marwyn and Gwenna, Elvish War Masters, to produce lots of elves and lots of mana before they do. Nice, so we already have our 3rd land in hand. They did not play anything on turn 1. They just got this Fabled Passage and a Forest. There's their Land War Elf, because this brought in a tapped land. They weren't able to use it right away. For me, the most important of these elves to start with is going to be the War Master, because with Marwyn out, more elves entering the battlefield means more mana. And War Master, seeing another elf each turn, will make another elf, which means that we can buff up Marwyn with the War Master. Nice, Invasion of Zendikar, get them 2 more lands. They're definitely ahead of us on the mana front here. But I believe in our powerful elves. They could play Voya, but they wouldn't be able to attack with him unless they have something else to give him haste. They still have 2 mana, both green. For Leaf Crowned Visionary, this is going to make their elves stronger. I'm going to name Wolf Awu on this Cavern of Souls, and we're going to turn our mana into more mana here with the Land War Elves, Rishkar. All of these should be pretty good. Just want to make sure I'm trying to decide if I want to play Voya this turn or next turn. I think next turn, using Rising of the Day this turn. Bringing out Rishkar, we get an extra elf. I'm going to put some counters onto other creatures. Marwyn is going to get a counter all on her own. Even more counters here. So I have a lot of green mana, which is great. I'll play Rising of the Day to give all my creatures haste, including this Rishkar here. I will play Gwenna, who can tap for mana, but only for creatures like this creature. And we still have 2 mana, so I'll go for a Pelt Collector. And a Land War Elf. We have a lot of creatures. And also, our Voya will have haste. We'll see if they can stop my Rising of the Day. Oh, instead, they're gonna make a whole bunch of wolves! Tovolar's Hunt Master, when it enters the battlefield, makes 2 wolves, and if it flips to its backside on attack, will make 2 more wolves and give your wolves the ability to attack. I am actually going to trade Rishkar here for the Leaf Crowned Visionary, since that is something that buffs up other elves. And yeah, Rishkar's giving us a little bit here. I think we'll have a really good swing right back at them, forcing them to block and taking out most of their threats. Playing a land, it comes in tapped as a Temple of Triumph. Nice Lightning Bolt. Here comes Voya. Oops. Oh, I should have used Gwenna. I would have then had more Lightning Bolt mana. I forgot. She untaps when you cast this commander because she has a mana value of 5. So we attack in. Our smallest creature is a 9/9. And our largest creature is a 17/16. This has trample. Nobody else does. But I'm not sure if you have enough blockers. Oh no, this has trample as well because it has more than 3 counters on it. That is a lethal attack. Our wolves have outrun theirs. GG, Voya. Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. Doubles counters for all of their permanents and halves counters for mine. This is going to mean that Voya's getting +1/+1 counters on all creatures are going to be halved as long as Vorinclex is on the battlefield. I expect that this is probably going to be a deck that has some Planeswalkers, because this also doubles counters on Planeswalkers. Possibly some +1/+1 counter synergies, too. We'll have to wait and see. I haven't played against a Vorinclex Monstrous Raider in a while. But being able to, like, play a Planeswalker and use its ultimate ability, its big, high-cost loyalty ability right away, can be really strong. I will start with this Goblin and Archomancer, since it's going to give a good discount to all of these creatures here. It's also just a good Goblin. Giving, like, red and green spells this discount is so helpful. Even if we're not, you know, we're not necessarily a lot of red cards. We have a lot of green cards in this deck. Elves tend to be centered in green in Arena, and in Magic in general. They cultivate. Getting some beautiful basics into play. They might be able to play Vorinclex, I think, next turn. Yeah, they have 5 mana right now. Raping from this. More mana from this. Thankfully, we've got a lot of mana, too. Enough that we could play Hoya. We could also play the Wake and set up, but I think we could do that next turn. I'm going to start with Arcane Signet, just because we have enough mana for it. And Voya, Jaws of the Conclave. This may be a 5/5. This is a 6/6. We're going to have to rely, I think, on Mirari's Wake to give us that extra +1/+1. And Maskwood Nexus to turn all of our creatures into elves and wolves. Hi, Vorinclex. You're not attacking in. You're a healthy blocker, right? They are attacking in? Prove me wrong, sure. I will name Elf on this. I get 3 mana for 2 mana here. I think I will do... Mirari's Wake into Maskwood Nexus. I actually have enough mana that I could make 1 extra elf here. So right now we have 3 elves. If we attack in with each of these, it's going to be 14 plus 9, which gets pretty dang close. Because each of these is going to be buffing for itself. It's not lethal though, so I'm going to... Oh, right, and we're also getting halved counters. So I'm going to leave back the Elvish Archdruid. Just so we have a bit of mana after combat. Yeah, because that's halved the counters. Playing the Great Henge. We do not get the +1/+1 counter at all because Vorinclex is here. That's alright. I still think we have a good board with all of these happening. Mirari's Wake, Maskwood Nexus, Great Henge. I love that everybody's a wolf, so we got to draw 3 cards. And look, you finally became an elf! See, I did put an elf in my deck. They have the ability to gain 2 life, but first they're gonna get huge! So what happens here is first they get not 3, but 6 +1/+1 counters, and then they get doubled. I'll gain 2 life, and we do have to block, or we're dead, because that's a lot of damage. That's okay, I don't need Voya to finish you off, I think. Our Incubation Druid will also still be alive, right? Oh no, it's exactly enough, it's dead. Move it to Command Zone. They have 12 life remaining. Do I have any way to give you haste here? I do not. I do have a way to remove Vorinclex, though. What if I should have just chump blocked Leafkin Druid because it doesn't have trample? No, I should have. Imagine playing well. Could never be me. That's fine. We got some options here. Got the ability to draw a lot of cards, maybe even drawing to a haste enabler. I'm out here with like my 9 damage. Alright, Let's get a little bit more. Just keep drawing. Listen, we could turn it around. See, I know we could turn it around. Just keep drawing cards until you get one of the best cards ever printed in green. Craterhoof Behemoth. Sorry for missing lethal on you, Roaring Klex. It's okay. I got the other lethal. GG. Nissa Ascended Animist. This is the Nissa that is complete. She can be played for less than her full mana cost, but she comes in with less loyalty if you do. You're also paying a bit of life since it is using Phyrexian mana. This hand has a little bit of ramp, a little bit of landfall ramp, an indestructible elf, and an elf with a wolf, Tulsamir, Midnight Light. Nice Neverwinter Dryad. This is going to be a big green rampy deck, like so many of them are. It's fun to play big green rampy decks. This is a big green rampy deck. It's just full of elves rather than, I don't know, Nissa who makes giant tokens. I will grab the Jetmir's Garden. Give myself access to all three colors. And they're sacrificing the Dryad for a forest. Bringing out the Loam Speaker. I just noticed they are playing mismatched full arts. I love playing mismatched full arts. I do it in paper. 2 more lands off this Cultivate. So we go for Nissa here. I'm going to play the land before Nissa, so I can attack in for 1 with my Loam Speaker. And now we'll be getting a floating mana when we have some landfall. That means that we could either get out Tolsimir or Voya or Mirari's Wake next turn. Nice. Oh, you're Kozlim. If that hits my face, they can get a land and a creature from the top cards in their deck. I don't want to name Elf. I'm going to go with Elf over Wolf here, since I already have very good mana for what I'm doing. And do I feel the Mirari's Wake? Does give me a block against Oyer Kozlim. I don't currently have any, like, haste for Voya, which is too bad. I could also just get a wolf. Wolves are good. Let's go for Mirari's Wake. I can double block Oyer Kozlim with this. Unless, of course, they go for Nissa and they want to destroy this. And then I'd just be kind of sad, because I forgot that Nissa does destroy artifacts and enchantments. I'll go for the double block. Nissa is gone, but the Loam Speaker remains. This turns into a land. 7 mana. They can play Nissa for her full cost. And there she is. Plus or minus? It's going to be a minus. Taking out Mirari's Wake. I'm going to animate this Iganjo here. And use it to attack Nissa. Ooh, so many choices in lands. Let's go for Sacred Foundry. Bop the Nissa! Excellent work. Great boppins. I have many elves. They have a lot of mana. Makes me wonder if they're going to be able to play a big scary creature here. Now leave Devastation gets them a 6-cost creature. Vorinclex? Primeval Titan, that gets them 2 more lands. It will also mean that this will be able to flip over next turn because they'll have 10 or more permanents. Nice Nykthos with so much devotion off of Nissa. And an Arboreal Grazer if they have an extra land in hand. Here it is. Nope. No extra lands in hand. If only I had some haste. Haste I do not have. But an Immortal Queen I do. It might not be able to fully block and keep things alive, but it has enough. Throwing rights at Illamok, does it find a creature? They will have 4 creatures at the end of turn because they'll plus Nissa to make a Hoarder. Oh, Ronus! They can double the attack of these guys. That's gonna make that a very scary Primeval Titan. They're glimpsing the core, getting more forests. And they still have enough mana left over to flip over the temple. Another little dude. And a Galta! Nice! A 12/12. Perfect mana. I could block the Primeval Titan and kill it. I don't think it's going to be worth sacrificing Voya, because I think Voya attacking is going to be our way to a potential victory here. So instead, I'm going to double block this Horror token with Arwen and this Elvish Rejuvenator. The Rejuvenator dies, but Arwen will live, for she is immortal. Alright, let's get some more Elves out here before we start swinging. Right now we have 3 Elves. Make it 4. 5. Can I hear a 6? Okay, that's a good number of Elves. I will attack with Voya at their face. Good. Now, Galta, would you like to block? How about Ronus? Ronus will go a few cards down into the deck. Great. Yeah, they know that if they block, I would give up Arwen's immortality here. And in fact, I might be doing that on the backswing anyway, just for the life gain. So I'm not going to bring in Dwinin's Elite. Yeah, this also has lifelink, which is nice. And by the way, we do not want to kill Nissa, because if we do, they can use her -7 ability. Right now, she's just spitting out tokens. That's fine. Elves make tokens, too. We'll be able to force some fights when we attack in next turn with Tulsimir. I'll make sure I pay extra attention to the UI. I messed this up earlier, because you have to pay attention to which wolf each ability is referring to. Oh, something's in hand. I keep looking at Tulsimir. Yes, it's an elf. Oh, okay. Making Tulsimir indestructible. Arwen gives up her immortality to protect Tulsimir until end of turn. We also gained 10 life because he had lifelink, and now he has also a lifelink counter, which doesn't... Or lifelink until end of turn? No lifelink counter. He has double lifelink. They do not attack in. Let's make... Alright, so first, we're gonna go with Dwinin's Elite. This is just for a little bit more. Or do I just want to do this? Let me do that mid-combat. 2 more Elves. We go to combat. I'll attack in with everything but Llanowar Lumbspeaker. So we have 2 wolves attacking. Alright, so whenever this wolf attacks, I'm trying to tell which one this is. Alright, so this is when Voya is attacking in. We're going to have it fight Ire Chasm. Oh, let's go Primeval Titan. And when you attack in, you can take out... Oh, your Chasm. So I should have ordered Voya's +1/+1 counters first. That's on me. That's fine. I think we still have plenty of damage. Yeah, so they have to... Oh, sorry, it's not a fight. It's they have to block these. Anyway, they're 1919s, and we're able to give all of our elves an additional, like... I'll say a bit more. She was a 2/2, but she'll become a 5/5. And you'll be a 5/5. 5/5? 5/5. Everybody here wants to be a 5/5? We all get to be 5/5s. Good game, Nissa. Zimone is a Simic ramp commander. And I know what she likes to do. She likes to put lands into play. Don't we all like to put lands into play? I'm gonna mulligan here, trying to find some ramp. I did sort of find ramp. Galagreeters has this celebration. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you get to make things. Alright, there we go. We're celebrating. We're gonna have an alliance between Galagreeters and a very regular elf, wolf, sand, horse, tree. It's everything. I love being tree folk. Play the Realm Walker. I will name Elf on the Realm Walker because there's a lot more elves than wolves in my deck, and I will make a tapped treasure token. Help me ramp so I can get out Voya next turn. Though I'm probably not getting Voya out next turn. I'd rather get my roaming throne out. I know what I'm here for. It's roaming and throning. I'm going to play the roaming throne. And if I name Elf, I do get double Galagreeters triggers. Assuming this all resolves. But if I name Wolf, then I'm getting so many good things off Voya. Alright, we're going to make an extra treasure token here. I'm going to use one of these treasure tokens for Llanowar Elf. And I guess we'll put a +1/+1 counter on you. We're both slightly larger than Zimone. So swinging in and waiting for her to put a land into play. Zimone puts a land into play. Once they get to 8 cards, or 8 lands, they can also use her for some very efficient card draw. I suspect, though, that they will have some counter spells and similar things, so I can't rely on all of my spells resolving until we get something like an Allosaurus Shepherd out, or Rhythm of the Wild. That would be fantastic. I'm actually not going to play Voya this turn because I don't trust that it would land. I think that it would get countered. Oh, they're actually using a shower of arrows to destroy my throne. Okay, that's fair. I will make another treasure token. Narnum Renegade is going to draw me this Rhythm of the Wild. And I'll make these 2 attack in again. They have 6 mana. That's enough for River's Rebuke and similar spells. And look what it was for River's Rebuke. Thankfully, that taps them out, though, and here was our game plan. It's Rhythm of the Wild. This is the Rhythm of the Wild. Crack open this Windswept Heath. I'll grab, Temple Garden. Temple Garden seems fine. I have enough red mana to activate my Henware Battlements here. Galagreeters. We can get a +1/+1 counter, that's fine. Llanowar Elves. This is going to get haste, though. And you can get a treasure token into Narnum Renegade, which I'm fine with either of these. I'll go for haste. And you can get an extra +1/+1 counter. Swinging in for 2. Arcane Signet gets them a bit more mana. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But our creatures are uncounterable thanks to Rhythm of the Wild. And we can give them haste. So here comes Voya, Jaws of the Conclave. Can't be countered. We are going to give it haste. I guess I'll get a +1/+1 counter. You gotta get through that ward if you want to stop it from attacking. Now, if they have something like Into the Royal or an unsummon effect, they will be able to. But I feel like they may have wanted to just, I don't know, hit Rhythm of the Wild and counter something if that's what they do have. Let's find out. It is a Cyclonic Rift. So Cyclonic Rift, they're doing it for a single target. Voya goes back into hand, and I'll be honest, I'm fine with that. Because they just used Cyclonic Rift, which means they have used both Cyclonic Rift and River's Rebuke. Now, there are ways for them to flash those back and play them again, and I'm going to hope that they don't find them. Or that they just don't have enough mana to do so. Verdant Force. It's going to be spitting out Saplings, a classic big green dude. And sure, he's a 7/7, which would be a lot scarier if we weren't a Tulsimir deck. I mean that genuinely. Sure, you know what, Realm Walker, you can come in too. Oh, I actually wanted you to use the treasure, but this is fine. We are going to name Elf. There we are. You can have some haste. Have treasure. Oh, Man Tower, use the treasure in this. The more elves we have, the more damage we deal. Go for haste. And now we attack in with everything. Now all of these creatures are going to get +X/+X counters for the amount of elves we have. And we take out Simone. Slight overkill. Ain't no kill like overkill, though. I did have fun. I hope you liked seeing these wolves and elves swinging into battle. Voya is a really great commander and super fun to play. I think that this is going to be a really great deck if you want to build it in either Commander or in Brawl. And remember, the Murders at Karlov Manor Commander Party is going to be at your local game store February 16th through 18th, 2024. And it's going to be Commander with a twist. It's also going to be a great excuse to play some of the new commanders. I can tell you that I built the new Judith, Cartage Connoisseur. She is so much fun. And I'm looking forward to getting to play her with a bunch of my friends. If you're looking for more of my content, twitch.tv/Amazonian and youtube.com/Amazonian are where I stream and upload lots of Brawl videos. And remember, Brawl's well that ends well.